A comparative analysis of Nigeria's land and population against that of Vietnam reveals stark disparities in productivity and export values, which spotlights significant failures in leadership. Notably, despite possessing a larger expanse of land and a greater population, Nigeria's export figures remain alarmingly lower than those of Vietnam. Vietnam's notable achievements in the realm of manufacturing exports, particularly in electronics, present a viable model for Nigeria. This situation underscores that Nigeria possesses the inherent capacity to cultivate similar industries, provided that there is appropriate support and investment from the government and stakeholders. The agricultural potential within Nigeria is undeniably vast. However, the nation grapples with food insecurity. In contrast, other African nations such as Ethiopia and Kenya have successfully established themselves as exporters of agricultural products, illustrating the attainable goals Nigeria could pursue if strategic initiatives were implemented. Egypt's remarkable achievement in doubling its power production from 26,000 to 55,000 megawatts exemplifies the significant potential for growth that exists when effective leadership and investment are prioritized. This transformation serves as a pertinent reminder of what is achievable with focused efforts in the energy sector. Education is paramount to economic development, particularly emphasizing the education of women, who have demonstrated higher productivity levels than their male counterparts. This statistical reality warrants a reassessment of educational policies that can enhance productivity across the economy. Countries such as the Philippines have effectively harnessed remittances by channeling them into educational investments, thereby demonstrating how a strategic focus on specific sectors can yield considerable economic benefits. This example provides a roadmap for Nigeria's potential economic transformation through targeted investment. The speaker draws attention to the evident disparity in school attendance rates between boys and girls, which highlights an urgent need to motivate boys to value education equally. This situation is indicative of broader societal attitudes toward education, which must evolve to foster inclusive and equitable learning environments. The past initiatives undertaken by the governor in Anambra State to revamp the educational landscape exemplify the positive impact of direct resource allocation to schools. Such measures resulted in marked improvements in educational performance and enrollment rates, illustrating the effectiveness of proper funding. Current budgetary priorities raise significant concerns, as funding for education appears to be overshadowed by disproportionate subsidies. This alarming misallocation of financial resources poses a grave threat to the country's future development and the overall well-being of its citizens. The discrepancy in borrowing costs between Nigeria and Morocco provides a clear illustration of how political stability can profoundly influence financial health and investment opportunities. Morocco's intangible assets play a critical role in its ability to secure lower borrowing rates, presenting a lesson for Nigeria in fostering economic resilience. Emphasizing the necessity of investing in both the education and health sectors is crucial, as prudent financial allocations can lead to sustained improvements in the economy and societal well-being. Ultimately, sustainable development hinges upon meticulous financial planning and prioritization. Concerns surrounding the lack of trust in Nigeria's currency are increasingly pronounced, as politicians often prioritize spending in dollars over supporting local enterprises. This trend erodes the economy and jeopardizes the nation's financial stability, necessitating a re-evaluation of fiscal policies. The current dependence on foreign currency is severely impairing local industries, as manufacturers face significant challenges in accessing the necessary funds for operational continuity. This currency predicament exacerbates the economic instability that Nigeria currently endures. There exists a critical failure to disburse pensions and salaries owed to educators and public servants, illuminating a systemic issue of fiscal accountability and governance. This neglect has far-reaching implications, adversely affecting the education system and, by extension, future generations. The perception of political leaders, such as Peter Obi, as lacking strength arises from their unwillingness to partake in corrupt practices and their commitment to prioritizing public service over personal gain. This situation invites a profound reflection on the values that should underpin leadership in Nigeria. The speaker critiques the current leadership for yielding to external pressures, positing that a genuine leader must possess the fortitude to reject detrimental foreign policies. This situation raises critical questions regarding accountability and integrity within governance frameworks. The contrast between leaders such as Peter Obi and Tinubu is stark, emphasizing the importance of prioritizing public welfare above personal or political interests. The pressing need for leaders to curtail unnecessary expenditures is reiterated, highlighting an area where reform is essential. In closing, A call for the establishment of a new political party that genuinely serves the people emerges, aiming to eliminate financial barriers to candidacy. This proposition reflects an urgent demand for a political shift towards more inclusive and accountable governance structures.
Nigeria is a very rich country, blessed by God, with good weather, with good everything. Nigeria is not poor. What is poor is leadership. When you have poor leadership, you cripple everything, you make everybody poor. Because your thinking is poor, your business is poor. You can remove Nigeria from being a consuming, sharing country to productive country. She just mentioned about my tour. Whenever state I reach, as I land, I look at the agricultural aid, the land, the massive land God gave Nigeria. I look at the people God gave Nigeria. And I ask myself a question. How did we get here? About that is a very simple thing. Nigeria is a country of about 31,000 square kilometers of land.
923,000.
923. Very good. Very good correction. Vietnam is 331,000 square kilometers. Nigeria is 200 million population. Vietnam is 100. Vietnam export last year is about 300 billion. Total export. Nigeria export last year is about 30 billion. 10% of Vietnam. So we have a third of their land. We have half of we have twice their population. They have a third of our land, half of our population. Look at the productivity. That shows, they're producing anything. The 5 or 6 biggest states in Nigeria, Niger, 76,000 square kilometers, Borno, about 17, Taraba, 54,000, I think Kaduna, 46, Bauchi, 45. The 5 biggest or 6 biggest states in Nigeria is about 340,000 square kilometers. It's bigger than Vietnam. That's 6 states. And look at what they're doing. And what is Vietnam exporting? Vietnam is exporting manufactured goods, not oil. 98% of their export is manufactured goods. Number 1 is electronics. Are you saying it cannot be manufactured in Nigeria? It can. Kaduna used to be home of textile and garments. Where is it? These 3 sisters I called you, Kaduna is there. They're not doing that. I said it in Kaduna, that we can export even if it's just 2 billion. They are doing 32 billion. Bangladesh is 36. There's nothing happening in Kaduna. Because you've created a country that is not productive. It's simple. So this is just talking about being productive. The 4th or 5th biggest export of Vietnam is footwear, which Abba can deliver. Abba used to do it, 23 billion. More than oil, just shoes and footwear. This is something that is so simple that you can do. I was in Bangladesh. You see me give an example. For good 1 week, went to the villages, saw women sewing and doing this clothing. They are exporting. And I can tell you, Nigerian women are bright, more hardworking than these women. All we needed to do is to support them, ensure proper government committed grants to them, not to TV show. It is a straightforward thing. I can go on and show you why to even turn in these states that I mentioned, 340,000 square kilometers. It's just, Netherlands is just 10% of them. 10%, 333,000 square kilometers. They exported agricultural goods, 120 billion. These 6 states can't even feed themselves. I was in Taraba, and I was landing in Taraba. I look at the lovely place, the Mambila area, and everything. You can grow coffee there. Ethiopia, this is not first world now, exported coffee last year, $905 million. You can go and check it. Ethiopia, this is not foreign, not Colombia now, who have done much more, but Ethiopia, yeah. You can grow flour there. Kenya did flour, almost $500 million last year, flour export. In fact, young girls, non-graduates that pick flour in Kenya are paid between $100 and $150, which is about 100,000 now, a minimum wage starting. These are countries in Africa. Morocco did an agricultural export of about 10 billion. What is Nigeria doing? We're just waiting to share this oil money. That's what we are sharing. Even when we share it, we politicians cut it away and using it to buy people as if they're goats and everything, rather than encourage them. So you can turn it around. How do you do it? Most of these corporations you see across all these countries are driven by small businesses which are dominated by the youths. And we have large of them, very innovative, very entrepreneurial, very... You see how these boys even call Yahoo boys? That's how India started. They were doing Yahoo until a leader came and turned them around. They turned out the same thing they were using to defraud people into what became today that India dominates the ICT. That shows the talent is there. What they need is direction, somebody that will pull them in the right direction, support them, small businesses. Small businesses have died here. That's what is driven. Service industry contributes 41% of GDP of Vietnam. And what is happening there is all SMEs doing small businesses. Our manufacturing today contributes only about 9%, even below that, of our GDP. Not for a developing country. Not for a country of our size. China is 30%. If you go to other countries, you see it, they are above 15%. That shows you don't have power, you don't have anything, you don't have access to it. These are not rocket science. What are we talking about power? Between 2015 and today, Egypt had doubled its power production from 26,000 to 55,000. Egypt, I mean, if we don't want, I as a president, we'll go there and sit there and say, how did you do this? It's not from the moon. Today, you are the giant of Africa. You're generating 4,000 megawatts, which is what we've generated since I was born. The second biggest economy, South Africa, is doing about 50,000 with 60 million people. The third biggest economy, which is Egypt, is doing 55,000 with 100 million people. Let me tell you, if we want power to change, it will change. The first time we borrowed money to do power here was 1964. You have seen me say it. I went to Tumbo and Tafabela. People say, where are you going here, Peter? I said, I came to pay respect to this great man who loved Nigeria, who governed Nigeria. In September 1964, all of you have access to it. Tafabela wrote World Bank saying, I want to borrow $82 million to build Kainji Dam 58 years ago. In that letter, he said, to spur economic growth of my country. In the reply from the World Bank, they said, we approve this because it will help in development of your country. If you value $82 million in today's money, it's about $1 billion. So for $1 billion, he had the foresight to build about 1,000 megawatts of electricity. Today, our debt is about $120 billion. Imagine if you threw a third of it to generating power at $1 billion per 1,000, we would have had 40,000 megawatts. This place would have been a manufacturing hub for the entire Africa. Because we have the talent, Newi, Eba, Kanu, everything. I went to Kanu. All the industries are dead. So what you have now is that you have millions of people who are begging. I went to Onitsha, same thing. I went to Aba, same thing. These are people who are industrious, who wants to work, who are willing to go back. So you can change it by borrowing the same money and throwing it in the right direction, not borrowing it for sharing or for anything of anybody to talk something like that. So it's very easy. We can change it. The more educated your country is, and it's been shown, the better your economy. Because you can't talk about productivity, you can't talk about it without investing in education. And it's very simple, especially in education of women. You can't talk of any country that is doing well today without talking about education of women. Because actually, they're more organizers. They're better in terms of being productive. It's been shown that women are actually more productive than men. I'm talking about cotton industry in Bangladesh. It's 60% dominated by women. It was the same in Vietnam. And you can go on and on. You know, it's a question of government understanding this is where we're going to go. We're talking about the investment in education. For example, one of the places even central bank was trying to dash people money, if you bring his diaspora remittances. We have 5 million Nigerians living outside this country, and they are remitting about $15 to $20 billion. Imagine if you educate, say 15 million, you can even succeed in putting investment in 10 million of them, and they leave this country. And that's what remittances will hit 50. That's what Philippines is doing. They become a servant of the world. That's what we talk about Singapore, talk about everything. It is about education. So you invest in it. There's no way this country can comfortably invest in education. The amount of money we borrowed and sharing, Ruben today can fund education. I was a governor. When I came in, we had a problem in Anambra State. Our problem was that the boys were not going to school because they wanted to go and trade. They didn't see any value in education. So we had 80% girls in school, 20% boys. When I came in, nobody wanted to talk about education. Of course, we are lagging. We're number 26, 27. I even saw Governor Makinde the other day in one of his achievements. He said he has moved Oyo from 26 to number 11. Because I remember very well, that time, Anambra used to be 26, Oyo used to be this. And I said to myself, it can't be. We can change this. We will invest in education. But what we did was simple. We put in the resources direct to the school. And it worked. We moved from 26, number 1, 2011, 2012, 2013. Today we have the highest cutoff point. You can change it anywhere. I've been to schools everywhere in the world. If you ask Governor Tambowal, I visited Sokoto once. Said, where are you going to? I said, I'm going to schools. I went to schools in the border. I went to schools, about 4 schools in Sokoto. Bishop Kuka would tell, and you could see people who wants to learn. But why are they not doing that? Because we've refused to invest. Ruben, let me even tell you, what we are going today in terms of criminality, our children will refuse to invest and educate yesterday, they become a problem for us today. And the earlier we start educating the ones that are coming now, the better. So we will do that. And there's resources to that. All this money you see that's being budgeted for education and everything, never get to schools, they don't get to where they should be. What we are going to do now is have a policy. Nigeria cannot be, look at what World Bank said yesterday, that we are 7th worst country in human development. Nigeria, This is a country that used to be exemplary. People used to come from, when I was in Nsukka, we had exchange students from America, from everywhere. People used to come to Ibadan to learn, to do this. So what is happening? We now go to Ghana. We now go to this. It will change. Our HDI I have now become 161 over 185. It cannot be. Because we are country, we have the resources. People will tell you we don't have the resources. Where did we put the one we borrowed? Price of oil moved from 50 something, price doubled. Ordinarily, my sister, the price of products you're selling doubled. I expect you to come in with more money if I'm a banker. But all of a sudden, you didn't pay anything. And when they investigated, they found out that this money is going to things ordinarily. Maybe subsidy. There's no way our budget of subsidy for 1 year should be bigger than our budget of health for 5 years, our budget of education for 5 years. That shows there's something wrong. What are we subsidizing? Let's discuss it. It's time to sit down and say that this criminality associated with subsidy must stop. We have a country. We do things there without conscience. Even among the worst corrupt and stealing country, there will be conscience. People do ask me. And I said to them, hey, wait a minute. I'm not, and I did not take Anambra State money. But even if I did, for the fact that I left 75, if I had taken 5, at least there's conscience. But for the fact, no way. I don't. I say it any day, anytime. Capital no. Go and show me one. And I challenge anybody. Show me in the 8 years of Peter Obi being governor where Anambra State money was mismanaged. Challenge anybody. And that's what I tell people. Do not bother about how my private life or this. There's so many things Peter can do to make money. I'm a great creator any day, anytime. Whether here, in the Western world, anywhere. Because there's so much opportunity in life. But I'm saying that even if you are, you should have conscience. You say, no, this is wrong. This is right. So where is the money? So they delisted us because we didn't save any money. But that will not stop us from borrowing. People say our debt to GDP is low. It's low. Compared to, say, Egypt or Morocco or anything. But see the difference. If Morocco issues a bond today, say for $10 billion, the interest rate will not be more than 3%. So Morocco will need to pay out only $300 million. Because they have an economy that is stable. Their position is overweight, which is what JP Morgan is saying. So they have a saving. If Nigeria issues the same bond, they will pay 10%. So because you're not in borrowing and doing the right thing, you've lost $700,000, $700 million. For the same amount, another African country borrowed, because Morocco have been able to build their intangible assets to where they are stable. There's peace, there's unity, there's law and order. But you can't do it. It's not the same thing in Nigeria. So now the differential you're wasting in your borrowing, which is what is happening even in the one we're owing now. Let's say we're owing $100 billion. So you are now paying $100 billion at 3% would have cost us $3 billion. $100 billion. $3 billion. But you're now paying 10. So you're losing $7 billion. If you had thrown $7 billion into education, health, fighting poverty annually, in 5 years, you have a difference. So you need to build that where you have that intangible asset that gives you that state. That's what Nigeria used to be. But you throw all that away. Yes, other countries in Africa, like Ghana, have physical issues, but we shouldn't, because we have some assets that we can utilize. As governor, I visited every local government in Anambra State and slept in them. Even when it's a short distance of 1 hour from Oka. Today, if I have opportunity of serving this country, before doing any visit outside this country, unless for an inevitable invitation or somewhere that is, I must go for a meeting, I will first tour the 6 states of Nigeria. Stay there, discuss with the stakeholders on ways and means in which we can build a more cohesive, a peaceful, caring society. Look at ways in which we can bring the best of every state. It's critical. The same thing is what I did by going from one state to the other to largely be able to canvass and interact with the delegates from that state on why we cannot continue on the path we are today. But if I tell you, it's very difficult. I find so many things very worrisome. Very, very worrisome. One is that our politics remain very largely transactional. Two, which is very sad, most worrisome to me, is that what makes a country, one of the most important ingredients of being a nation, is the respect, trust people have for their currency. Currency is a measure of faith and trust of citizens in their nation. Currency is a measure of productivity. Currency is a measure of your economy. I find it very, very worrisome that government officials who are supposed to be protector of this particular item, our currency, have abandoned the currency and are now spending dollars. I find it worrisome that while our manufacturers, business people cannot find dollars for critical inputs into manufacturing, critical import of spares and everything, the dollar is scarce. But the politicians found money to share. No country of the world would this happen. And this is being shared by people who have no legitimate means of earning dollar ever in their life. So it's a different thing if somebody comes and says, oh, Peter, I invested money in this and I earned $500,000. That's what I'm sharing. But the Reuben, whom I know, had not earned any dollars in the past 5 years, is sharing dollars openly. And nobody is questioning that. One, you diminish your currency, you ruin your economy and everything. I was in Morocco just within the past 3 weeks. I bought travel allowance from Nigeria and I went to Morocco, met people, and I said, they told me that this dollar, I have to cash it through using my credit card. So I said, where's dollar credit, where is dollar credit, the points where I can cash my dollar? I was shocked that they told me, not in Morocco, that I have to change that money in their currency if I want to. And now it's in every country. And when I spoke to the government official, I said, why wouldn't you have a place that can cash dollars? He said, not in Morocco. In Morocco, you spend our currency. So you must change that dollar in our currency. In Nigeria, government officials and everybody is changing our own currency into dollar. And this is dollar we cannot give to manufacturers. Again, if following up to that is that while we cannot pay gratuity, pensions of people who have worked hard in this country, where we're owing workers, owing lecturers, where our young ones are not in school, owing teachers in various states of Nigeria. Politicians have huge amount of money to share. So there's a disconnect between the entire thing. And as more as I travel and talk, the more I get more worried. And I look at myself, I've been a governor. I went for second tenure. I went for election through a time I was in office. I can't remember calling people to share the money. Whenever I invite them, I show them, this is what I'm doing, and this is where I saved your money. The one that is remaining. I've done this road, I've done this, and this is where the remaining is. But that today, people are sharing, you're owing teachers, kids are not in school, the kids don't have destiny, and you're sharing money. It is absolutely worrisome. That's my observation. But in any case, I'll continue to go on hoping that somewhere we'll be able to get this issue dealt with. We can't continue this way. No nation can continue this way, where you get up in the morning and you're sharing people money for no productivity. And the money you're sharing, everybody is aware that a few years ago, Peter Obi, Ruben Abati, who is sharing money today, have no legitimate means, no office of any such money. So that money, we know where it came from. And nobody's screaming. Nobody's shouting.
Is Peter Obi a weak leader? With the excuse that Peter Obi was weak, Peter Obi did not do what MKO Abiola did, declare himself president, that Peter Obi could not or cannot defend the votes that the people give to him. Many people have jumped on that narrative to push it, that Peter Obi is a weak leader, Peter Obi is weak, he cannot be president of Nigeria, Nigeria needs a tough leader, Nigeria needs a tough leader. And so I say, is Peter Obi really weak? And I'll say it again, honest answers only. Is it weakness for a leader to see billions of naira and decide not to steal it and decide to leave it behind? Is that weakness? Is it weakness to refuse the nudging, the request of your State House of Assembly members to spend public funds lavishly, but then you refuse? Is that weakness? Is it weakness to refuse to bloat government contracts and reduce everything, reduce cost of governance? Is it weakness? Since when is it weakness that you allow rule of law? You don't force your opinion on others. How is this weakness? Because these are all the things that people point to and they say Peter Obi is weak. Is it weakness to say, oh, I will not call for violent protest? I will not let innocent lives be lost because of my ambition? He has said he's not desperate to be president of Nigeria, but he's desperate to see a Nigeria that works. Is it weakness? Because from what Kenneth Okonkwo has said and what people are now hiding and queuing behind to push this narrative that Peter Obi is a weak leader, is that Peter Obi did not defend or declare himself president after the rigging that went on in the 2023 presidential election. So, is it weakness? We need to be careful so we don't give a dog a bad name just because we want to hang it. We need to be careful about our actions because we don't want a situation whereby all the good people that have intentions to fix Nigeria, that have patriotic mind, that have the passion, that have the credibility, we need to be careful not to call a dog a bad name because we want to hang it, and then in the end, we're chasing good people away from the arena of leadership in Nigeria. We need to be careful about that. When we're talking about weakness of leaders, shouldn't we measure it by whether or not the leader is able to resist external forces to resist the request of external forces, to resist the demands of the enemies of Nigeria? Should that not be how we measure the weakness or the strength of a leader? And in that regard, who should we be calling weak? Should it be Tinubu? Should it be Buhari? Or should it be Peter Obi? Who is weak? Is it a Tinubu that on the first day, right from day one, served Nigeria on a platter of gold to the IMF and the World Bank, despite knowing that it is not in the best interest of the citizens of Nigeria, despite knowing that only a minute percentage, very minute, less than 1% of Nigerians will benefit from the wealth of Nigerians at the detriment of the majority, 99%. Despite knowing this, he still went ahead to serve Nigeria on a platter of gold to the IMF and the World Bank. Just because possibly the IMF and the World Bank has one or two things against him, and so he lacked the courage to say no to them. We were here when President Obasanjo said that never say no to the World Bank, or else they will drag your face on the ground, but never you do their bidding. So, who is weak? Is it not a leader that can stand up and say no to these external forces that are pushing agendas, pushing policies that we know are detrimental to our own interests? But yet, our leaders are not man enough or strong enough to say no to them. Is this not the kind of leaders? Is this not how we measure who is a weak leader or who is a strong leader? So in this light now, who should be the weak leader? Really? You tell me. Because when we push public narratives like this, oh, Peter Obi is weak, we should be careful. We need leaders who can say no to the demand, to the pool of corrupt persons in politics, to their pool, to their request to spend public funds for private gains. Is it weakness that a Peter Obi was able to say, no, I will not buy another SUV when the people are suffering? When we have such a leader as Tinubu, who despite the hardship that is going on in the country, is able to spend 1 billion naira to buy one car. And since May 29, it's all manner of cars that have been bought for the president. All manner of cars. Over 6 or 7 different cars, from BMW to Range Rover to Land Cruiser to Mercedes, just name it. And then you have the latest one, the Escalade. A leader who cannot say, I already have money. Oh, there's already a car. The people are suffering. Let me say no to spending government or public funds lavishly while the people are suffering. Should that not be the weak leader? When you look at this, who should be the weak leader now? Is it a Tinubu or a Peter Obi? Is Peter Obi really weak? We need to answer genuinely, because right now, the hardship that is in the land is for the majority of us to bear. So if you answer falsely, we all bear the brunt. You answer honestly, we all gain and reap the reward. It is crucial at this time for us to answer this question honestly. Is Peter Obi a weak leader? Your answer is as good as mine. Whatever your answer is, one thing is certain. We need leaders who will put Nigeria first. We need leaders who will cut down on the cost of governance. We need leaders who will create jobs. We need leaders who will be able to say no to the interests of the IMF and the World Bank. Leaders who will say, this fuel subsidy you're talking about is corruption. There is no subsidy in the first place, so there's nothing to remove. What you are asking me, oh, Mr. IMF and Mr. World Bank, is for me to increase the cost of living for my people, and that will increase their suffering, and so I cannot say yes to it. Is that not the kind of leader we want? In fact, when you consider it, you would even say that a Buhari was even a stronger leader than a Tinubu, because a Buhari was able to say no to the IMF and World Bank for 8 years. In fact, if I recall that interview he had with Al Jazeera, when they kept pressing him, oh, why don't you remove fuel subsidy? He said, my people are poor. We are not producing anything. This is Buhari that does not have the first-class brain of a Tinubu, as he is acclaimed to be. But he knew that removing fuel subsidy was a lie, because he said it was a fraud. But what they were actually trying to do was get him to increase the pump price of petrol, to get him to devalue the naira, to get him to privatize. All these are things that the IMF has been pushing Nigerian leaders to do, even though they know that it will make life difficult for Nigerians. And Buhari refused it. And from day one, Tinubu accepted it. Who is the weak one? Tinubu or Peter Obi? Please, 2027 is around the corner. We need to change. We need a change of guards. We need to do it with smarts. We need to come together and organize. And the only way we can do that is not through any of the current political parties. I make bold to say it. There is no political party right now in Nigeria that can say you can run without paying a dime for nomination form. We need to form that kind of party. And that is what the Abundance Party is for. So look in the description and join us. Let us create it together. A party of the people, by the people, and for the people. A party where nobody can run for any elective position in the party unless that leader or unless that person has been a member for at least 12 months. And no charge will be paid for nomination form. None at all. And our mode of primaries will be direct primaries. Access to every list of members. No separate or special delegates who will now form the core of money politics in the internal affairs of our political party. And of course, there are ideologies that every of the members of these our new political parties must now subscribe to.